Welcome, everybody, to the first episode of the Penny Stock Detective, where we expose scams, pump and dumps, crooked cops, and other assorted fraudsters in the world of penny stocks, especially in Canada. And today we're going to be talking about Mark Faulkner, who is the crooked cop, the dirty cop, who is the so-called regulator at the Canadian Securities Exchange, also known as the Canadian Scam Exchange. Now, you should know we have recently filed request for criminal investigation into Mark Faulkner by the RCMP. That's the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, for those of you who don't know what that is, because these guys are in Canada. That's like their FBI. They're pretty useless, but, let's see if they can do something. Also, the OSC, Ontario Securities Commission, British Columbia Securities Commission, because there's some actually serious crimes that Mark Faulkner committed. He's a dirty, crooked cop. He's unsuitable and unqualified to be a regulator of any securities exchange, much less to be delivering pizzas, which is what he went to school for at the Humber College, a cooking school in Canada, Toronto, Canada. All right, so let's get started. By the way, in case you don't know, my name is Jack Marks. What makes me qualified to talk about penny stock scams, pump and dumps? Well, I've been in the penny stock business for 30 years. I've created over $1 trillion in wealth for investors. I've dealt with thousands of companies, and I literally wrote the book on 10-bagger stocks called 10-bagger Blueprint. Is it right here? There we go. You can get this on Amazon, and this book shows you how to not only make 10 times your money or more with cheap stocks, but also how to avoid getting scammed in some of these pump and dumps, these fake it till you make it, fugazi stocks out there, and everything you need to know is in the book. Okay, let's get into it. So in case you don't know, Mark Faulkner, let me pull this up. We got a little slideshow for you. We got a little show and tell for you, my friends. So here's the little show and tell. Mark Faulkner. There we go. Can you see this? There we go. Okay. So Mark Faulkner, as you can see, there is a picture of Mark as the mall cop that he is, the sloppy mall cop. Again, he's committed multiple acts of fraud. He defrauded 4,000 investors of CSE News. This is a stock that went up, 300, 400%. That I was the chairman of, okay? And I have a big position in that stock. Now, Mark Faulkner he raped, okay? I'll use the word rape, okay, because Mark Faulkner raped 4,000 investors. Okay, speaking of rape, I'm going to introduce you to the chairman of the CSE, who's associated with a known rapist, Peter Nygard, who is currently in prison in Canada, awaiting extradition to the U.S. on sex trafficking charges. So this is Mark Faulkner, again, multiple conflicts. Not only did he commit fraud, he's got multiple conflicts of interest with scumbag stock promoters, lowlifes like George Tsiolis. You can Google George Tsiolis. You Google George Tsiolis, okay? This guy's a lowlife scumbag who ripped off, I don't know how many investors, but this guy he was actually busted by the Ontario Securities Commission. That's like their SEC, for creating 600 fake accounts to pump stocks, basically running a pump and dump. He was fined six figures, banned from certain things. He lost his law license. And by the way, just so you know, George Tsiolis, he not only is he a scumbag, he's also a rip-off artist who ripped off our whole concept of doing the CEO interviews, because he came to one of our conferences years ago. We were doing these investor conferences at the Harvard Club in New York. He ate a bunch of meatballs. We got charged because we had to pay for all the hors d'oeuvres. Okay, we had a bunch of people. We had, a couple hundred people there. George Tsiolis wolfed down 2 plates of meatballs, and we went over budget because, by the way, that's 100% true. You ask George, that fat, greasy slob. Now, also, Mark Faulkner is associated. One of his good friends is the scumbag Chris Parry. He's a failing stock promoter in Vancouver. He's a Hamas supporter, virulent anti-Semite, and basically a total loser. And these two guys, not only are they snitches and cowards, these guys also created a false report to the CSE about yours truly to try to get me banned, which I'm actually getting in the process of, banned by this guy, Mark Faulkner. So let's get into it. Just so you know, Mark Faulkner is completely uneducated. He's got no real education, and he's not qualified in any way to be a regulator of a securities exchange. I'm going to show you, by the way, the regulators at some of these exchanges, just so you see this. Actually, let me pull this up, and then we'll get into the fraud that he committed and how investors got seriously hurt. Literally, this guy, his job is investor protection. Instead, He's raping investors. Okay, you guys ever see? It's like one of these movies. You guys ever see this movie classic with Harvey Keitel, Bad Lieutenant? Abel Ferrara, great director. So basically, the guy plays a crooked New York cop who's essentially, involved with drug dealers. Goes around raping girls. That's what Mark Faulkner basically is. Now, I'm not saying Mark Faulkner has committed rape or sexual assault that we know of. We don't know, but he's the same type of guy. It's the same scum that needs to be in prison or worse. He needs to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. That is not a joke. Okay. Let's see. Let me just pull this up over here, and then we're going to share. We'll do a little screen share. Is this on? Is this up? There we go. Okay. So there you go. We have an article. We have an article by Mark Faulkner. It's on our website. A link is in the video description below. By the way, guys, if you want to support the channel, please click the subscribe button, the upvote button, the thumbs up, whatever it is, the thumbs up button. Share it with your friends. We want this out there. Share this with as many people as possible. Put this out on social media. Don't let these guys get away with committing financial rape. Okay. And if you want to donate money, click the link below. It's on Ko-fi, whatever it is. Why should you donate money? I don't know why. Some people like to do it. Anyway, click the subscribe button at least. Okay, let's get into it. This is actually very serious here. So this is scumbag Mark Faulkner. He looks exactly like the guy from Dumb and Dumber. Same exact guy. Who's also Canadian, by the way. That's Drew Carey, I think. Isn't that Drew Carey? Whatever his name is. I don't know. These guys, all these Canadians are the same to me. The guy at the bottom. Anyway, by the way, you see there, down 87%. That's the Canadian Stock Exchange performance in the last 5 years. They are down 87%. Let me repeat, it's the worst performing stock market on the planet, down 87%. The only time they had positive upside, they were going up, was when I was promoting stocks on that exchange. I'm going to show you my track record. Okay, so you can see exactly what we did for these guys. Basically my work, okay, is my sweat that paid for this guy's, the food on his and family's table. Let's see here. So his wife, Kathy, can stuff her mouth. That was all paid for by my work. Okay, now let's see. First of all, you should know Mark Faulkner, he is facing, this is true, serious criminal fraud allegations. Okay, paperwork has been filed with the OSC, RCMP, and the BCSC. Okay, now here's what you got to know. He's the only stock exchange regulator on the planet with no law degree. Okay, let that sink in. He's got no law degree. He's the only, again, can you imagine this? It's like, imagine like, he's basically essentially a judge. He's essentially a judge. His job is basically to be a judge, at the exchange, to judge. Okay, have you ever heard of a judge who's got no law degree? I mean, but apparently it's good enough for the CSC, which, by the way, is, again, this is why they're down 87%. And this also goes to the judgment of Richard Carleton. That's Dickie Carleton, the sassy and tubby dancing queen. That's the CEO of the Canadian Scam Exchange, who's friends with rapist pedophile Peter Nygard. We'll show you that in a second, but let's get back into this. Okay, so again, he's the only guy who's got no law degree. He's got zero educational qualifications. He went to Humber College, which is like a community college in Toronto. He's very low IQ. He's incredibly stupid, corrupt, and inept. Okay, and that is why he's caused probably billions of dollars in damage. We at least know of this case where he basically took a company that was about to become a 10-bagger. This is a stock that increased from like nothing. It was up 300%. Okay, let me explain to you exactly what happened. The company that we're talking about is New World Solutions. NEWS was the symbol on the CSE, REGRF on the US. I became the chairman of that company. I sold a piece of a company I had called Dial Market, which has fast growing revenues. Okay, before I put Dial Market into this company, they had nothing. They had no business. They had garbage. It was basically a fugazi stock. I put into a Dial Market, which had massively growing revenues. Okay, which in 2024, 2025, and so far in 26, okay, we've produced more revenues than News had in the previous, maybe in history. Okay. And it's growing. Okay. Now, of course, you can't trade the stock in Canada because it's been halted. You can trade it on the OTC. We're not recommending you do. We're not making any recommendations to buy or sell securities. I'm just telling you what is happening with that thing. Anyway, this guy, this fat scumbag, basically took a stock that went from a penny, okay, less than a penny to what up like 400%, millions of shares of trading, okay? Up 400%, millions of shares of trading, and this guy halted the stock. Why? We're gonna find out. He's got an agenda. He's a crooked cop. He's got conflicts of interest, and some other things which are going to come out in future videos. Okay, and our goal is very simple: is to put Mark Faulkner in prison. Now, here's what's interesting. How did the board of directors hire this guy? I don't know. So here's Mark Faulkner on the right, and here's his fat friend Dickie Carleton. Both of these guys are wearing cheap suits. I mean, look at the way these guys dress. I mean, look at the way these guys. I mean, this is disgusting. I mean, they're wearing these like $69 suits with the tie. It's clown shows. Anyway, look. According to his LinkedIn profile, he's got zero legal education or background, zero investment education. He doesn't even have the equivalent of a Series 7 in Canada, which is a stockbroker's license. His main experience is being a motorcycle teacher for 36 years, 1989 to present. Chief instructor, motorcycle training program at Humber College. No, this is true. I mean, this is unbelievable true. Unbelievable true. You Google this. You Google this. I mean, this is like basically Humber College is like where they teach cooking, and it's a diploma mill for migrants. Okay, this is where you go from Bangladesh because you want to migrate to Canada as a student. You sneak into the country as a student at Humber College, and then you go on to do illegal migration. Okay, now let's take a look at regulators at properly run stock exchanges. Okay, let's see. This is the only guy with no law degree. This is the only guy. This is his background from LinkedIn. Okay, he's a lifer. Basically, he's like a bureaucrat. He snuck in to the. Okay. This is it. This is his employment. He graduated at Humber. I don't know. He left Humber College. He went to the Toronto Stock Exchange, where he basically was a clerk. Okay, he was a low-end clerk, which is like the job they give you. I mean, this is like an entry-level job. He was hired as a clerk, probably, order entry clerk, whatever they had back in the 80s when they wrote, all this nonsense. Anyway, he snuck in, and like, he's basically a brown nose. He's a typical Canadian ass-licking brown noser, licking assholes to get to the top. This is basically how he got to the CSE. Now, hold on. We're going to get to the crime that he committed, okay? But first, you got to understand this guy's track record. Again, he starts off as a clerk, basically, at the TSX, allegedly market investigations. Now, market surveillance, what does it mean? Nothing. He's basically a guy, he's a snitch. He's a snitch, basically, who gets hired to, look through, what they had, spreadsheet, garbage, okay? Chief instructor, motorcycle training program, 36 years. Somehow I don't know how he gets hired at the CSC when they started. Nobody else wanted to work there. He gets in there right when they open. Okay, so this guy, I gotta give him credit. I gotta give him credit. He probably couldn't get a job anywhere else. This is most of these guys at these exchanges, these regulars. Nobody will hire them. Okay, it's basically these guys are if they had any skills or talent, they'd be working for broker dealers, investment banks. They'd be doing what I'm doing. Okay, they'd have real jobs. They'd be doing something productive instead of this guy basically stealing money. He's a parasite. Okay, he's a bureaucratic parasite. Now, let's take a look at professional regulators at other exchanges. Okay, these are all the exchanges I have right here on this page, which in North America. So we have this guy, Joseph Ernst. He's the guy at the TSX. So the Toronto Scam Exchange, okay, the Toronto Scam Exchange, which is it's the other version of the CSE, but it's run by the Toronto Exchange. They have this guy working for them. His name is Joseph Ernst. And what is his background? He has a Bachelor of Law from Osgoode Hall Law School. Okay, all these guys went to, I don't know what that is. But anyway, he's got a law degree. He's worked at the TMX. He's basically a lifer at the TMX, more or less. But he's got a law degree, okay? He's got a law degree. Now, how about the Neo Exchange, which is kind of like the new exchange there? You got this guy, Greg Hagusian. Okay, Greg Hagusian, which is it was called the Neo, now it's called the CBA. They keep changing the name. Anyway, what's his background? Okay, he was an attorney. He worked at the Chicago Stock Exchange, Illinois Attorney General's office. Okay, that's a real job. Assistant Attorney General in Criminal Division. Okay, concentration, prosecuting financial and white-collar crimes. Okay, Greg Hagusian, great guy. I have nothing bad to say about him. Okay, so Greg, he's got a law degree from John Marshall Law School and University of Wisconsin. I don't, whatever that is. Okay, that's in Canada. That's the guy working at Canadian Exchange. So all the guys at the Canadian exchanges, as you can see, they all have law degrees. Okay, that's where those exchanges are properly run, more or less. I mean, the TSX is a scam exchange, but that's another episode. Okay, now let's get into the other people. OTC Markets, that's the pink sheets. The pink sheets, that's like the garbage, the bottom of the barrel. They got Dan Zinn, who is the general counsel, chief of staff. He does everything there. He's got a law degree from where? Benjamin Cardozo School of Law, fine school, and also Pennsylvania State University. Okay, so and also he worked at Nelson Law Group and AIG. Okay, he's a lawyer also. How about NASDAQ? NASDAQ has got this guy. Of course, look, when you get to NASDAQ, you're going to get, heavy hitters. John Zecca, also, what did this guy? He was served as a legal counsel to Commissioner of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Serious guy. Practiced corporate securities law at Hogan, Lovells and Kay, John Pratt, and he was a law clerk for a judge, federal court in D.C. Serious guy. Okay. How about this? Okay. We got a woman here. Finally, we got a woman here. Yeah, we got diversity. She is, Elizabeth King is chief regular of the New York Stock Exchange, ICE. Okay. Her background, she's got a law degree from the University of Pennsylvania and Duke University, and she also worked at the SEC. Okay. And she worked at, where else? She also worked at KGC Holdings. She's got a serious background. So Mark Faulkner, he's completely, what the word is, unsuitable. He's got mall cop energy. These are some of his tweets from his Twitter account. He's a psychopath. That's his Twitter account. MFMF is his Twitter. I mean, you can't make this up, okay? This is the stuff that he posts. A lot of his anti-American. His friend Chris Parry posts constantly anti-Semitic rants. He's a Hamas supporter. That's his friend Chris Parry. George Tsiolis, of course, that's his other friend who's a convicted fraudster. So basically, Mark is saying they should cut off people's phone service for dialing 911. He's a psychopath. I mean, this is what he are. How about pedestrian? Again, it's all this angry mall cop energy. Pedestrians. He's ranting. He's got the Toronto police. He's writing to the Toronto. We have an immediate administrative suspension of a driver's license. Idiots. Yeah, something about again, Karen. We got a Karen. Again, tell car 29 to turn lights on. It's past sunset. Peel police. Again, this guy's constantly, doing Karen stuff, contacting the police or something. Traffic. He's got traffic. Blah blah blah. Again, he's very concerned about that, but he's also a rapist at the same time. So this guy's very concerned about traffic, whatever. But he's got no problems raping investors, as we're going to find out. So, by the way, he's also pumping stocks on his own website, on his Twitter account. This is from his website. All these companies are bankrupt. Mad Men, bankrupt. Drone Delivery, bankrupt. He's promoting these stocks on his exchange. Why is he promoting these? Who were his friends, by the way? George Tsiolis and Chris Parry. Here's the other bum. Rob Therio, another bum. Also, no track record. So we got a bunch of stuff on Mark Faulkner. Okay, now let's get back into the serious stuff. Okay, let's get into this stuff. Okay, so here we have, as you see right there, this good-looking older guy. That's a rapist, Richard Carleton, pedophile and rapist Richard Carleton. With, excuse me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean this. Okay, that was actually a slip. Pedophile and rapist Peter Nygard, pedophile and rapist, with his friend Richard Carleton. Okay, Richard Carleton rapes investors. He did not, as far as we know, he did not do any rape or pedophilia. He only raped investors, financially raped investors. We don't know of anything else, although we do have some allegations coming from Montreal that we're going to be reporting about later. That's extracurricular activities by Richard Carleton and James Black in Montreal. We'll be reporting about that. You stay tuned, okay? So this is Richard Carleton. He's associated with this guy, Peter Nygard, who is sitting in prison right now. He's basically Jeffrey Epstein of Canada, but worse. Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein really did nothing wrong. I mean, seriously. He was basically paying girls. Most of them were over the 18. This is documented. A few might have been, in high school, whatever. They told them they were 18. Their friends told them they were 18. There's no documentation of him doing anything underage, okay? And by the way, all those girls, they got paid. They came back multiple times. He gave them a lot of money. He took them on vacations. He introduced them to Bill Clinton. He sent them to schools. He actually did a lot for these girls. Whereas this guy, Nygard, basically raped these girls against their will. And it's fully documented. And he's also being extradited to the U.S. Also, he also had his own sex island, Nygard Island, Pedo Island, in the Caribbean. You can Google all this guy. It's Peter Nygard. Now the question is, why is he hanging around? Why is Richard Carleton hanging around with this guy? Why is Richard Carleton hanging around with sex trafficker Peter Nygard? By the way, you should know that this fat tubby slob, Richard Carleton, he's being sued by his own in-house counsel, former chief counsel. That's right. This fat fuck is getting sued by his own chief counsel at the Canadian Securities Exchange, and the allegations include securities fraud, conflicts of interest, cover-up, other improprieties. Does that ring a bell? Do you see a pattern developing? Yes. Also, there's allegations of fraud committed by the chief financial officer. Okay. So again, you have this guy hanging around with rapists. Now, Mark Faulkner and Rob Cook. These are the two guys. Mark Faulkner on the left, the fat fuck, and you got this old guy who looks like he's got Alzheimer's. You see, both of them are drinking a lot of drinking in Canada. Look at this guy's holding 2 drinks. Rob Cook. Okay, so these guys, I'll tell you the connection in just a second. Why am I bringing it up? We're going to come to it in a second. So they're friends, they're personal friends of sleazy stock promoters, again, Tsiolis and Parry. And there is the performance of the Canadian exchange. Now, here is why I am showing you all this stuff. Here, again, you got those Rob Cook, and look at this. Look at this, interesting. So you see these 2 guys in pink, 2 grown men in matching pink shirts, golf shirts. That's the fat tubby Richard Carleton and his, how shall we say, young gentleman friend. We have Richard Carleton's young gentleman friend, his protege, James Black, who's basically he's like the Baghdad Bob of the Canadian Securities. He's like the propaganda minister of the CSE. He does a bunch of videos trying to pump up their stocks. He keeps failing. This James Black is a lowlife who knows nothing about stocks. He pumps these stocks on their failing YouTube channel, their Twitter channel, and all those stocks with document. They're all going there. That's why he's jealous of the Wall Street Reporter of me. Because we actually deliver results, as you're going to see. Anyway, so what happened is this. We're going to expose you some. We're going to give you some inside information, my friends. So as you see here, this is an email. This is an email sent from James Black. Okay, this is from James Black, sent to his good friends, Rob Cook and Mark Faulkner at the exchange. And he's saying, Rob, have we any interactions with Wall Street Reporter? We have several of our clients featured on their site. Their Twitter is pretty outrageous. Okay, he's got the links. And it seems linked to this account, which is especially egregious, which is the penny stock billionaire gang account. And then, now, okay, here comes the smoking gun. George Tsiolis and Chris Parry seem to be targeted in some of the comments and have both flagged me on the matter. Okay, so George Tsiolis and Parry snitched. Okay, George Tsiolis and Parry are snitches. Okay, that's the proof of snitching. Proof of snitching right there. Both these guys, typical Canadian cowards. These Canadian cowards, all the same. They're all try to stab you in the back, all sneaking around. They're all little snitches, all little brown nosers. And by the way, it all backfires on these guys. I mean, this Parry is getting banned by the TSX. He just got banned by the TSX. We're gonna show that later. Yeah. Anyway, let me show you this. Okay, so this is so basically he's saying seem to be so George and Chris, that those are their friends, seem to be targeted. So basically, you can see from this email that they all know each other. And then it says, this was posted to me regarding quote unquote Jack Marks, the host of the program, SEC.gov. Oh, this is by the way, just so you know, yes, I was sued. I was sued by the Securities and Exchange Commission 30 years ago. Yeah, 30 years ago for something which no investors were harmed in. It was basically a paperwork error where, we did not fill in. We said that we got paid to promote certain stocks. We got paid cash, but we did not include we got issued warrants that were restricted, which means we couldn't sell them, do anything for 2 years. They were restricted. They had no economic value. So we did not mention them because they had no economic value. The SEC was going after they did like basically a roundup. This is in 1996 or no, 1998, where the internet was just starting and you had all these guys. It was like a Wild West. You had all these guys pumping stocks. Now we were doing the right thing. We're trying to do the right thing, but we forgot to put in this thing about the warrants. Not that it matters. I mean, anyway, but they basically said we're going to round up all these stock promoters on the internet. We're going to sue them about try to whatever. So they sent me this thing. You have to come in for an interview. Blah blah blah. I looked through all my papers, everything. No problem. The only thing they came up with is this thing where we forgot to put in these warrants that had no value. That was the big thing. And I paid $15,000, neither admitting nor denying guilt. And by the way, just so you know, everybody who's in this business has had some issues with regulators, okay? Listen, if you haven't, it means you haven't done a good job, okay? If you haven't had any issues with regulators, it means that you're not doing anything to get any attention, okay? I've created over $1 trillion in wealth for investors. I have a documented track record and massive wins for investors. Companies have raised billions of dollars with my efforts. I'll show you the track record below. But anyway, he's using this link to basically to kind of try to besmirch me. Okay, he's trying to besmirch me, saying, "Oh, he's what?" And then he's got a screenshot here. This bum, this James Black, this low-life piece of shit, this twink. He's got this screenshot here of something we had on Twitter, which on our Twitter account, which was a stock chart with an arrow that said moon. And by the way, the stock went up. It doubled from that point. He's saying, other than being aware of all the activity, I'm wondering if there are eyeballs from the regulators on these guys. Okay, there you go. James Black trying to brown nose his way up. You guys, you see a pattern? A bunch of guys trying to brown nose, trying to get brownie points. Getting their nose up each other's assholes. That's what these Canadians are doing. All right. So these guys are it's a snitch culture. Okay. These guys have no balls. They're all small dick energy, small dick Canadian energy. Okay. That's James Black. That's the guy and his daddy, the twink and daddy. Now, again, I'm not saying there's any whatever. I'm just from the looks of it. I don't see usually grown men in matching pink shirts. Okay. I don't see it. Although I do know that both of these guys, let's just say, there's been some activity in Montreal that we're going to be discussing later. Both of them like to visit certain, shall we say, places of entertainment that maybe I don't know. Married men shouldn't be going. I don't know. I'm not here a moral cop. I'm not a moral cop, but it's something they got to discuss with their wives. I'm not married to. I have no business telling the guy where you should or shouldn't go. Right? We're going to be exposing that in the next video. But let's keep going here. Let's keep going. So. We got, okay, so what happened is this. This is where it gets interesting. Here is where it gets interesting. News, the stock I was chairman of, Mark Faulkner, okay, this scumbag Mark Faulkner, dirty cop Mark Faulkner, decides to ban me from the exchange, okay, and get the stock halted. Or actually, what he was trying to do was ban me so that way the acquisition of my company or the merger, whatever you want to call it, would be unwound. Okay, that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to unwind the acquisition, so I would go away. Okay, and that company would basically go to zero. If you unwind that acquisition, it goes to zero. That's what he wanted to do, just so he can, get me out of this. Now, it's interesting. So, how did he do this? How did Mark Faulkner commit the crime? Here's the smoking gun. I'm showing you guys the smoking gun that this piece of garbage Mark Faulkner used, and this is why he should be going to prison. Okay, this is the smoking gun of Mark Faulkner's multiple acts of fraud. He just got started with this. Okay, basically the guy sends me an email saying, sometime we did this merger in, I don't know, let's call it September of 2024 with Dial Market. I'm using the word merger just for ease of use. With Dial Market with news, we do the merger, the stock explodes. Stock goes up 300%, okay? Goes up 300%, millions of shares of trading. By the way, all the insiders from news, all dumping their stock. So basically Mark Faulkner is supporting a pump and dump, okay? So those guys were doing a pump and dump, okay, based on my work. Now, I have nothing to do with it. I don't care. I'm in it for the long term, okay? I got 20 million plus shares, right? So I'm here to make this a $1 billion company. But anyway, so this guy, just so you also know, this merger with news, okay, we went through 3 months, the CSE, back and forth, 3 months with our lawyers, pre-clearing the deal. The deal was pre-cleared. They knew all the players. They knew everything about the deal before we closed, okay? A week later, I get an email from them, from one of their people in the office saying, you need to send in your PIF, which is like a background form, your background check. I said, hey, you have one on file, which I did a year ago. And the girl replies back to me, oh, yeah, that's right. We do have it. You don't need to do another one till November. Okay, meaning they have it. No problems. Everything's cool. Now, what happens? I'm not going to get into too many details, but basically, one of these Canadian snitches, one of these brown nosers, who will be exposed very soon, contacts Mark Faulkner. Okay, we have this documented, and basically makes up this whole thing. Oh, you got to get this guy Marks. You got to get Marks. You got to get this guy Marks. It's kind of like the Trump thing, Russia. Oh, remember that Peter Strzok and his girlfriend? Both of these, Peter Strzok and his girlfriend, the FBI agents, both of them are cheating on their spouses, okay? So both of them are cheating on their spouses, and they have this high moral ground. Okay, so basically, they are just like these guys. So, by the way, in business, I don't trust I wouldn't do business with anybody if I know they're cheating on their spouse. Why? Because I know if they cheat on their spouse, they're going to try to cheat me. It's just the way it is. Okay, and by the way, I've dealt with all sorts of people. Okay, these guys are all scumbags. Anyway, so these guys are the same. So it's like Russia, Trump. We got to get Trump. He's involved with collusion. This, that. Same thing. Anyway, so Mark Faulkner decides, okay, I gotta get Trump. I gotta get Marks. How does he do it? He contacts me a few weeks later in late September, on my birthday, by the way, September 27th, my birthday. And he says, we actually have your PIF on file, but we deemed you to be unsuitable in January of 2025. We deemed you to be basically means you're banned. Okay. Now, what's the reason? You're going to see. Okay, but it's interesting. They decided to ban me, but they never notified me. I mean, that's a serious thing. If to ban somebody from an exchange, you usually notify them, right? It's a due process. You file an appeal, all the stuff, right? Also, if I would have known, you think I would have done a merger with this company? Come on. I mean, so basically this guy either is incompetent or a fraudster. And we have proof that he committed fraud. So here is the proof of fraud. Okay, here is a document. What you see there is called the decision of CSE listing, okay? I don't know if I can zoom in, but it's going to be up on the screen in full. Let me see. I'm going to make it so that you can see in full. No, I'm going to do it. How should I do it? I will do it. There we go. I'll do it like this. Okay. I'll do it like this. Okay, so basically here is this decision memo. Hang on a second. Let me just take this out here. So here is the decision memo. That's a screenshot. You see it's dated January 8th, 2024. And the signatures are Mark Faulkner and Rob Cook. Those are the two fucks on the left. Now, the metadata shows the document was not made January 8th. It was made a year later, more than a year later. Why was it made over a year later? Because I filed an appeal, okay, and my attorney, Jovan Narwhal, King's Counsel, okay, this is not just some random attorney. This is KC, which means it's a very high-end attorney in Canada. King's Counsel means like, I don't know, it's a Canadian thing. Basically means he's a serious guy. He does very serious work, okay? Criminal defense, major stuff. And by the way, he's beaten the BCSC in a bunch of things. He's beaten Mark Faulkner a bunch of things. And basically, he contacted the CSC, said, okay, you deemed this guy unsuitable. You're banning him. Well, where's the evidence? What was this based on? and they're hemming and hawing, it's like the Three Stooges. They're all delaying. Why? Because there was nothing. They never banned me. Okay, that's the truth. They never banned me a year earlier. This was something he came up with to get me out of this company news. This is what the facts are showing. Okay, because look, you got this document which is clearly backdated. Now, even better, at the bottom, you see the arrow pointing to the bottom. He refers. Okay, he gives the reasons. Oh, why were okay? The committee relied partly on the IR report, specifically allegations by the Securities Exchange Commission, agreeing with Marks. But then he says, "Oh, it wasn't a big deal, but we don't like your comments made on social media, on TikTok, Twitter, and investment forum CEO.ca." Okay, comments that I made on CEO.ca. He found those to be over promotional. He's saying I'm being over promotional. What does that mean? By the way, that's a whole nother thing. What is over promotional? Apparently, if you draw an arrow like that arrow pointing up, they could call it over promotion. It's not, but that's what they try to get you. Now, here's the problem. Mark Faulkner, you dumb piece of garbage, you stupid motorcycle cop. You want to be, you don't have the balls to be like a motorcycle cop. That's why you were a motorcycle teacher. Okay, you're a coward. You're a fat fuck, and that's why your family is ashamed of you. Okay, Canada's ashamed of you. I never posted on CEO.ca until I think it was September of 2024. Okay, which was 11 months after this letter was written. Okay, so we got two smoking guns here. Number one, this thing is backdated. You can clearly see the metadata. The metadata shows, okay, forensic data. It's the metadata, okay? Document was made a year later. When did he make it? He made it because he had to submit documentation to my lawyer for the appeal, and also the evidence that he concocted, which, by the way, I'll show. It's hilarious stuff. He had nothing. He basically had absolutely nothing. All the stuff he claimed was over promotion was basically not promotional. It was basically me criticizing other companies that were scam stocks. Nothing promotional. So very strange. And also, I was never active on CEO.ca, Mark. So yeah, I think that it's like the dirty cop. He plants the drugs in your car. The dirty cop, Mark Faulkner. This is what he would do. The means. Whatever the means to the end. What is the end to the means? The end justifies the means. I guess they call it, right? I'm sorry, English is not my first language. But anyway, this is like the cop that wants to get you. He plants drugs or whatever in your car. That's what this guy is. He's a piece of garbage, and he must be brought to justice. And I'm not talking about prison, okay? We're not even talking about prison. This guy needs to be dealt with very, very severely by all legal, okay? Legal means necessary, okay? So let's keep going here. Let me just show you this stuff over here. Oh, hang on a second. There we go. Okay, there we go. So there we go. Okay, now let's keep going. We got more. Okay, so Mark Faulkner raped 4,000 investors. Okay. Mark Faulkner raped 4,000 investors of CSE News. This is a stock. The chart is at the bottom. You see that massive increase in activity. You see the massive increase in volume. It went from nothing. It went up like 300% in a day. Okay, trading millions of shares. Okay, because that's what happens when I'm get involved with a stock. That stock usually doubles on the first day. I'm going to show you my track record. Usually, our stocks double the first day with millions of shares of volume. You'll see. We got a track record. Mark Faulkner decides we got to get this guy Marks out. He's unsuitable to be involved with a CSE listed issuer. Let's find out who's unsuitable, Mark Faulkner or Jack Marks. Now, the stock increased again 300%. This is a company with growing revenues that had 10x upside potential. And this was stolen from investors. Again, to be clear, the revenues we have with Dial Market, which is my company that was bought by News, the revenues in the last 3 years have far exceeded all the revenues that News had before. Far exceeded by an order of magnitude, okay? Far exceeded, okay? So Without me, news would be worthless. Okay, technically it's worthless. It doesn't trade in Canada. It trades in the U.S., but whatever. I mean, we're not doing anything with it right now. Although the business is keeping going forward. So anyway, the losses of $5 million. Mark Faulkner stole $5 million from investors. Okay, Mark Faulkner stole $5 million from investors, as you can see right there, by holding the stock. That's where it goes flat line, because then it was holding. Let's talk about the CSE. The Canadian Scam Exchange is a failing exchange. It's the worst performing exchange on the planet. They're down over, I don't know, is it 75%, 85% over the last 5 years. The listings are dropping daily like flies. Every day I get an email about one of their stocks getting delisted. Okay, they got like 700 stocks on their exchange. Okay, 80% of them are zombies. They don't trade, they're halted. So literally the exchange, they claim to have 700 listings. 80%, maybe even 90% are zombie stocks that never trade. They're halted or whatever. And most of them are fugazi pump and dumps. Okay, run by Mark Faulkner's cronies. Okay. And also, here's what you got to know. If you're a CEO watching this, you want to go public, don't do it on the CSE. Your cost of capital is going to be like maybe 35% or 50%. What does it mean? It means if you're trying to raise $1 million, it's going to cost you $350,000 to $500,000, more like $500,000. If you're trying to raise $2 million, it's going to cost you $1 million. Why? Because number one is your stock is going to get shorted, aka walked down is what they call it, because the bankers and the fund managers, they're all involved together. So they short your stock in advance of your private placement. So your stock will drop 35%. Then the buyers, okay, the fund or whoever, the promoters involved, they're going to want to make sure that you're going to spend a couple $100,000 on some sort of pump and dump campaign because they need liquidity. They don't have any liquidity. They need to spend money. So it's going to cost you basically, $250,000 at least. Okay, whether you hire a guy like me or whatever, you hire some failed people, that's what it's going to cost you. And then you got your regulatory risk, which means the big risk, if you're a CEO of a company, you do not want to get involved with the CSE because not only is your cost of capital going to be 35%. By the way, this is documented. I can show you stocks which raised money. They raised $1 million, $2 million on the CSE because that's all you can raise on that garbage exchange is a couple $1 million. Unless, of course, I was promoting it, then you could raise, $30 million, as you'll see. Yeah, these companies that raise $2 million and $1 million goes right out the door for stock promotion, pump and dump, whatever you got to do for liquidity. But the worst part is you never know when this scumbag like Mark Faulkner, you get on the wrong side of him. You never know because you're dealing with a dirty cop. You're dealing with a crooked, corrupt cop. You never know when, he's going to have, who knows what, one of his friends doesn't like your company. It's one of your competitors. He's going to, you don't know. You have a regulatory risk it's a black swan event. Anyway, look, here's what you got to know. The CSE total trading volume for all their stocks is $30 million on a good day. $30 million on a good day is the total trading volume for the whole exchange. 30 million. By the way, that's Canadian. That's $20 million US. You want to know something funny? One of my stocks, just one of my stocks, trades $20 million a share in the US. Okay, I got many of those. Okay, that's like an average day for one of our stocks. A penny stock with $10 million market cap has $20 million in trading volume. I'm going to show you. Okay. So yeah, one of our stocks, one of my stocks, just one, has more trading volume dollar-wise than the entire exchange, to give you an example. So, and he's calling me unsuitable. His exchange is a bunch of fugazi stocks. They're a bunch of toilet paper stocks. Okay, now let's look at this. And this is what I was saying. This is from their website. They have 735 stocks. They traded $30 million. That's 20 million US, maybe less. That was a good day for them. Just one of my stocks last week, CXAI, and any week, one of my stocks could be trading millions of shares. One of my stocks was trading, yes, more than $20 million in a single day. Okay. It had like a day where they traded, I don't know, 75 million shares. And this is a $10 million market cap company. That's pretty typical for me. And by the way, what does that mean? If you're a CEO watching, what it means is if you have that type of liquidity, you can raise unlimited capital. That's why my clients have raised billions of dollars, as you're going to see. Okay, let's compare suitability. Jack Marks, that's me, versus Mark Faulkner. Okay, so Mark Faulkner, uneducated, unqualified to be a regulator. He committed multiple acts of fraud. He defrauded 4,000 investors. He raped 4,000 investors. He's got multiple conflicts of interest with fraudsters, other sleazy promoters like George Tsiolis and virulent anti-Semite Hamas supporter Chris Parry. And his main experience is being a motorcycle teacher for 30 years. Now on the right side, let's compare Jack Marks. There's my book, The 10-Bagger Blueprint, #1 bestseller, okay? That's my book, okay? Has Mark Faulkner written a book that teaches investors how to make 10 times their money with stocks, a proven system? That's the book. It's a bestseller on Amazon. Click the link below to get the book. Anyway, let's take a look at this. So what's my background? What's my suitability? So I've created over $1 trillion in shareholder wealth over the last 30 years. I've had over 900 public companies I've worked with in the last 30 years I'm doing this, okay? We've had, billions of dollars in growth capital has been raised. Literally billions of dollars in growth capital raised. I have thank you letters from countless investors who made millions of dollars with our stocks. Okay, now I wrote the book, best-selling author, 30 years of market experience. Oh, and by the way, Mark, unlike you, I actually have a stockbroker's license, a commodity futures broker's license, or actually I did, before they expired, 30 years ago. And by the way, I passed those exams, the Series 3, Series 7, 63, before I was 18, okay? I had my Series 3 when I was 16, okay? You don't even have any of those. You're totally unsuitable. Mark Faulkner is a total piece of garbage. By the way, Mark, let me show you some of the testimonials I have of people who've made money with our stocks. We have these, by the way, hard copy. We have emails. So this guy, Shark Attack Zach, he turned 1,000 to 60,000 in 3 months. Okay, that's a testimony. These are testimonials. Hey man, I just want to thank you. Okay, your program has changed my life. This is a guy named Hammy, founder of Stock Fam on Discord, big investor group. Now this guy, he made $2.5 million. G20 Trades is what he calls himself. By the way, with a CSE listed stock, he bought like 750,000 shares at 7 cents. He averaged up and he got out and he made basically $2 million, over $2.5 million. Okay, Tony Da Vinci says, you're no smoke and mirrors. Your CEO interviews do a great job finding out what shareholders and investors really want. Okay. You changed my life. This guy turned 2,000 to over $1 million. Calvin Ting, okay, 23-year-old kid turned 2,000 to 1 million with our stocks. RZT. This guy says, thank you for Jack for my new house in Florida. That's Gilbert St. Yves. People remember this guy. This guy was from Quebec and he bought a house in Florida with the money he made with our stocks. Okay, now what has Mark Faulkner done for investors besides raping the investors? What has Mark Faulkner done? Okay, so you got one person that creates and one person that destroys shareholder value. Okay, you, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, you can decide who creates value and who destroys value for investors. Now, let's talk about, what are my qualifications? Am I really unsuitable? Is Jack Marks a scammer, unsuitable to be associated with a CSE listed issuer? Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the actual track record. So first of all, 30-year track record creating value over $1 trillion in shareholder value created since 1997. Okay, so I was creating billions of dollars in value while Mark Faulkner was still doing motorcycle training in Humber College. We've had 8,000 CEOs interviewed on the wallstreetreport.com. I was the first guy doing streaming videos. More 10 baggers than anybody on the planet. And we've had more, I wouldn't say more, but we've also had, so I'm known for, introducing investors to stocks that become 10 baggers, stocks that go up 1,000%, which is called a 10 bagger. That's why the name of my book is 10 Bagger Blueprint. I literally wrote the book. We've also had stocks that were 100 baggers. Now, I can't really take direct credit because they were clients, but I wasn't really directly promoting them, if you know what I mean, but they were clients. So stocks like MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, that was one of our clients. That was a stock that went up 100x. How about Donald Trump? Donald J. Trump was one of our interviews, not a client. He didn't buy a program. He can't get money out of that guy. But yeah, back in 1998, when he was running, I think it was called Trump Resorts or whatever, the casino business, he was one of our interviewees. How about Axon? It's a stock that we introduced at $1.50. It went to over $800, okay? From $1.50 to $800. That is what I have done for investors. Rick's Cabaret, which is, interestingly, a roll-up of strip clubs, trades in the New York Stock Exchange. Rick, I think they called it Rick Entertainment. I don't know. It was a stock we introduced, I think, at 50 cents or $1. It went to $100. Just recently, it's still in the New York Stock Exchange. And by the way, speaking of strip clubs, we'll be talking about strip clubs and the Canadian Securities Exchange executives, possible sexual assault by Canadian Securities Exchange executives. We'll be talking about that on a different episode. And of course, we're known for literally a 90% win rate. Every time we introduce a new next super stock, that stock usually doubles on the first day. Everybody knows that. They usually double on the first day. Here's my track record with Canadian Securities Exchange stocks. Right here, documented track record. This is what I have done for the Canadian Securities Exchange, okay? This is what Jack Marks did, the value that I created for the Canadian Securities Exchange. Let's take a look. Give it a full page over here. So we have $1.6 billion in value created. These are all the stocks we promoted. These are all the stocks that I promoted on the Canadian Securities Exchange, which is like, I don't know, it's not even that many. It's like 18, 20 stocks on the CSE. We've had stocks that went up 1,100%, 5,000%, 1,700%, 2,000%, 1,300%, 1,000%, and then a bunch of multi-baggers, which I don't really care about. So a total of $1.6 billion in wealth. What does it mean? It means from the time that I got involved with that stock, the marketing awareness that we created, the liquidity that we brought in, the shareholder value. By the way, most of that buying came in from U.S. investors. So I brought the U.S. buying into the Canadian market. Without me, they got nothing. As you can see, they've gone downhill. My stocks, on average, in a couple of years back, I usually had the top 3 stocks on that exchange, top 3 most active stocks. Every day you go to their website, you would see CBDT, Trip, one of these other fans, whatever it is, Visby. Every day, one of my stocks was a top 3. By the way, just so you know, these stocks, they only went up because of me. Okay, yeah, they had fundamentals, whatever, but there was no other promoters involved. Anybody who claims that these people who take credit for these things, they're piggybacking on my reputation and the work I did, like George Tsiolis, Greasy George Tsiolis. He takes credit also for CBDT and a couple of others. Now, let me explain to you something. We showed a chart. Here's the stock when I'm involved, and here's the stock when I'm not involved. And there's a clear difference. When I'm involved, it's going up. As soon as I'm done, kind of close, and then it starts going down. George Tsiolis is still involved, and it goes all the way down. CBDT, George Tsiolis promoted CBDT all the way down to 0. He was pumping that stock to 0. That's right. George Tsiolis basically buried thousands of investors with CBDT, Fans United, a couple of others that he piggybacked off my reputation, claiming it was him. It wasn't him. As you can see, when George is by himself, the stock goes down. It's very simple. How do you know what I do actually works? How do you know that Jack Marks delivers results? Simple. You look at a chart. When I'm involved, the stock is going up. When I'm no longer involved, whatever, usually evaporates. Unless, of course, it becomes a major NASDAQ company and gets institutional sponsorship. That's a different story. And that's happened. That has happened. Fubo. But anyway, let's go back to this. So $1.6 billion in wealth created, and these companies raised $260 million. Okay. These companies raised $260 million. Now, some of you are going to be saying, oh, all these stocks, they all went to zero. Oh, they're all pump and dumps. Oh, this guy's a scammer. This guy's a scammer. All these stocks, you can't even, you know what? You're right. Most of these stocks, after I was no longer involved, months later, and by the way, I'm usually involved with these companies for 6 months. I only want to work with them for 6 months in what I call the 10-bagger window. If you read my book, it explains exactly why. I look for companies which have a great fundamental story that are in what I call the 10-bagger window, news flow, there's an inflection point, they have a good chart setup. I'm very picky about who I work with. Okay, so when I get involved, those stocks go to the moon. It's very simple. Now, if you're saying I'm a scammer, you're going to say I'm a scammer? Who gave these companies $260 million? Who gave them $260 million? Canaccord, all your cronies, all the investment banks, Stifel, you got H.C. Wainwright. So these companies were vetted. These companies were vetted by investment bankers. They couldn't raise that money otherwise. All that money, $260 million, was raised by investment bankers. So if it was good enough for your buddies at Canaccord and 8 Group, whatever, all these, Research Capital, whatever, all these broker dealers in Canada, if it was good enough for them, that's all you got to know. Okay, so it's not a scam. These companies were not scams because they wouldn't have been able to raise the money, right? Right, Mark Faulkner? Right? They were vetted by registered broker dealers and institutional investors. That's who was buying those private placements. So that is what I have to say about that. Lesson learned is when I'm involved with a stock, that's the time you want to own it. That's when the stock is going up. That's when, they go up 100%, 200%, 500%, 1,000%, 2,000%, 5,000%. When other promoters are involved, well, usually they go to zero. Anyway, let's see next page. Okay, how about the TSX? I'm gonna show you just my whole track record the last couple of years. My track record. It's full disclosure, and you can see it on my website. You can see how much exactly I got paid, which companies. It's all on the Wall Street Report website. TSX clients. So $450 million in shareholder wealth, and they raised $85 million. That's 1, 2, 3. That's about 10 companies. By the way, it could be. I'm giving you. There might be a few stocks that I forgot about, which are like they didn't do anything, whatever. But these lists is 95% of my clients in Canada. So this is the value that I created. Okay. By the way, all this money, all these companies, ESC Entertainment, CloudMD, that guy Hamza is a scammer. By the way, I'm the guy that told him to wear the stethoscope so he would look legitimate. And he raised $100 million as a result of my efforts. And what happened after a stock went up, 500% because of my promotion, and he was able to raise $100 million? He said, "Oh, we don't need you anymore. We're going to do institutional investor stuff. We don't need retail investors." You know what happened to him? He went to zero. His stock went to zero. That's what happened to him. And that's what happened to Skyline Health and others. Next. Okay, let's see my current performance. So a lot of you are saying, oh, this is years ago. Oh, what have you done lately? What have you done? Okay, well, I'm going to show you exactly what I've been doing lately. So this is my current performance. Okay. We haven't had any 10 baggers. I'm sorry. Our biggest win in the last year was only up 800%. I'm sorry. My biggest winner of last year was Seattle. That went up 800%. Of course, we had a stock that went up 1,400%, but that was for our private trading group. Anyway, 100% win rate. We launched 9 stocks. Every one of those stocks increased on day one. 100% average stock price increase on day one. That's right. Usually, when I launch a stock, it usually doubles. Maybe it's not 100. Maybe it's 90% increase. You'll see the results. And also, very important, my stocks trade on average at least $20 million US day one. These, by the way, I'm showing you day one results. You can see what they go afterwards, they increase. But just on day one, the day I announced that stock, it usually doubles and usually trades $20 million in that first day. You show me another stock promoter who can do that. Okay, by the way, my worst performer, some of you saying, oh, what about that stock? Well, my worst performer only went up 25%. That was last week. 2 weeks ago, we launched a stock, and the market's been very bad the last month. And whatever, not an excuse, I get it, but it didn't have much volume to begin with. But still, it went up 25%, and they traded like $1 million in volume versus like 20,000 versus like $50,000 the day before in volume. So 20x increase in volume with me. Okay, these are my results. Lottery.com stock increased 200%, and it traded 200 million shares over 10 days. Okay, you understand that? 200 million shares. These guys raised millions of dollars as a result of that liquidity. Okay, Seattle Mobile, 700% increase, 800% actually. Actually, I don't know, is it 700 or 800? I don't know. It went from $1.20 to $9. In one day, okay, just on one day, that stock traded 100 million shares at over $7, okay, which means my client, as a result of my work, $700 million in trading volume in one day. Do you know how much money you could raise with that type of liquidity? Do you have any idea? You could raise basically 100 million bucks. These guys raised less, but you could have. That's what I do for my clients. That is what I do for my clients consistently. Remember, I wrote the book, okay? I got the system for creating this. I could do this over and over and over again, consistently. Can Mark Faulkner accomplish this? No, I don't think so, because he'd be doing it. Seattle Mobile, 250 million shares over 10 days, over $5. So over $1 billion in trading. Hoth, 50 million shares over 10 days. Day one, I think it traded $20 million. Again, massive increase. It basically doubled. Aditex, which is, by the way, a dog stock. Day one, it traded like 20 million shares. It more or less doubled. It went up like 85 or 90%, whatever it was. How about Logistics? 30 million shares over 2 days. Okay, day one, the stock doubled. Okay, on day one it doubled, and I think on day one I'm sorry. I think that's wrong. I think they traded 30 million shares in the first day, if I'm not mistaken. It was a massive. You can look it up whenever we did it. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to miss anything here. How about ADN? 42 million shares over 4 days. The stock went from $1 to $6. No, is that correct? No, okay. We got the wrong chart. No, it went from $2 to $6. Correction, $2 to $6. That was the increase, and it traded like 50 million in the first day. It traded like 25 million shares or something crazy. By the way, you can look all this up. Everything's documented. How about WorkSport? This is a stock that what did it do? 5 million shares on the first day, $10 million in volume. By the way, that was the biggest day ever in history. When I launched that stock, that was the biggest day in history. Biggest day ever. And they worked with other promoters, whatever, By the way, they're Canadians. The problem, it only increased 45%. It wasn't that good. And the reason is very simple. There was dumping into the thing. They had an ATM going. I think they had a Reg A going. So basically, if they didn't have that, the stock would have more than doubled. But because I was fighting against all their dumping, it didn't perform. By the way, this is my track record of winners, not just OTC, just various companies. Cytodyne, 2,000% increase. Visby, 1,000% increase. Peak FinTech, 2,000% increase. These are all, by the way, within 6 to 12 months. All my stocks, 6 to 12 months. CBDT, 5,000% increase from a nickel to $2.50 in like 4 months. Nextech, 1,300% increase. And as a result of my work, this guy was able to raise, I don't know, like $100 million over a year. Fans Unite, 1,100% increase. Imagine AR, 1,700% increase. This company would have gone bankrupt if it wasn't for my help. 1,700% increase. They raised $5 million through a warrant exercise. If it wasn't for me, that stock would have gone bankrupt. So not only am I helping these companies, it's my work that creates jobs, that puts food on the tables of Canadians and Americans. ESC Entertainment, 1,200% increase. What else we got? We got more. We got Fubo, that was like 800%, whatever. Look, guys, you get the point. I think you understand where this is going. Anyway, look, the bottom line is this. Mark Faulkner is a dirty cop. He's a crook. I showed you all the stuff. I gave the evidence. Click the links below, which give you the full stories, the full reports filed with the RCMP, criminal investigation requests, with the OSC, the BCSC. You can see all the dirt on these guys. It's all fully documented. And let me know what you think. Comment below, leave your comments, make sure you subscribe and you support the channel. Why? Why should you send money to the channel? So I can buy a new Rolls Royce. That's why. You know, we got legal bills here. Come on, guys. I'm fighting these scumbags. I got to write a check to one of my attorneys. We got stuff going on. So, yeah, it helps. Your support, it's not even a dollar amount. Even if you donate 5 cents, it shows me that somebody's watching. Because if somebody donates money, whether it's 5 cents or $1, it shows that they have a commitment to supporting content, to keep democracy alive, as they say. All right, comment below here as to your 100x. Don't get scammed by the Canadian Scam Exchange. Call your local, I don't know, regulators, congressmen, parliament members in Canada, whatever. Get these guys locked up. They belong in jail. Mark Faulkner, Richard Carleton, Tracy Stern, Rob Theriot, Rob Cook, James Black. Well, James Black didn't commit any crimes, but he's a scumbag and a snitch and a failed promoter. That's Canada for you. Small dick energy.